Getting closer. There we go. Okay. All right, let us, well, where I always like to start. Not always, but let me add a little light. Just making sure you have a little bit of room around you. Good, and starting a little on the slower side. Right, feeling your range of motion, even noticing what's happening in your hands, your arms, in your shoulders, how much the ribs are able to move away from the arms. Ribs, low ribs, back of waist, belly. Good, and let's tip to one side and come into our little sit. And I'm going to start with a little bit of a more of a 90-degree or open leg sit. Good. And let's play with a little movement through that back hip, right? So back hip lifting and turning towards the front hip. Again, feeling that range of motion as we get some movement in the lower back, and even noticing as we move forward and we move towards a little extension, as we move back, a little posterior tilt. Notice what feels more accessible. Good. And then maybe bring the feet in a little bit, and let's just do a little rotation to one side or the other. We can start with a little bit of hand support, and then letting the arms move maybe a little higher, maybe a little shoulder height. Nice and easy. And then let's play with, as we move towards the front leg, a little bit of a flexion. So I'm taking the back arm kind of between the hip and that front arm. And then maybe a little extension or lift of the arm as I move back. You can do one arm moving back or both arms. It's very different when you take the hands off the floor. So notice what your body needs, and then let's settle back to center, up and over to the other side. Again, a little bit more of a feet away from, right, more 90 degrees between shins and thighs, and then back hip, moving forward and back and down, and forward and back and down. Good. Just feeling the difference side to side. I'm even noticing the difference in the lower back or the sensation around the upper pelvis, upper back, the side of the pelvis moving into the lower back. And then bringing the feet a little closer. Let's do a little turn towards one side. Turn towards the other side using hands for the first two. And then again, if it feels appropriate, if it doesn't, keep the hands on the floor, because it's much harder, or even one hand on the floor. That feels good to have one hand down. Get that nice flexion or rounding as you come around to the side. And then the next time we come forward, bringing the back hand to move down between the hip and that front arm, just to get that flexion and rotation. And then the back arm lifting as I reach back. And again, one hand can be on the floor, or both hands off the floor. It's just a little harder without that floor support. Again, you can go much slower and smaller, right? Find your pacing, your rhythm that feels right for you and your body today. Good. And then coming back through center, changing hand position. So whatever you were doing before, just a little switch. And then let's go back to our sweep. Notice how it feels. It feels different, smoother, easier. Good. And let's come to one side. I'm just switching. I don't know. I needed to switch position. I obviously favor one side. And I'm just going to tip to one side and a little sweep of the back leg around. And then knees up and over to the other side. Wide. Little swing. Again, doesn't have to be super fast or heavy or intense. Just a little sweep. Side to side. Okay, one more each side. Good. All right. Slowing it down, a little tip to one side, a little sweep, and I'm going to bring that foot and just hook it right in front of the knee. And then I'm going to shift forward onto the hand that's behind me and come up. I'm just going to play with a little tip to one side and tip to the other side. Just letting that hip that's not quite on the floor to have a chance to come down. Good. And then let's take opposite hand to knee and little twist. And nice and easy. And then sweeping around. Other direction. Right towards that lifted knee. And away from that lifted knee. And using your breath to create space wherever that is needed. Outer hips, lower back, back ribs, side ribs. And let's do one more. Little tip, same tipping, but with opposite arm up and over. Just a little deeper load through the side body. Again, make it as small, as big, as low. And see if you can move less from the mind and more from the breath. Right? Inhale to come up and over, and even slow down so you can inhale at your end range. Letting the breath be your guide. One more each side. And then letting the hands come behind. Right, I'm just going to let the hands lay back. Legs are still in this position. And just rolling the hips again. Roll. Right, initiating from the legs. And maybe just doing a couple tips. Again, doesn't have to be the biggest range of motion, really listening to your body. Right, honoring your body's need to move or to explore the whole movement rather than just the end ranges. And what happens as you move towards edges? What happens when you move back through center? Good. And slowly coming back to center. Let's release that leg down and extend the legs. Just come up for a moment. Just a little round. In your round, pointing your toes, flexing your foot, point Flex. Good. Rounding up to sit. Let's bring the arms behind the back, interlace the fingers. Good. Letting the shoulder blades fly towards the spine and maybe lifting the head a little. And again, maybe rounding forward, letting the arms lift up behind you. Like a little dinosaur spine. You can even just roll, rock side to side. Release the arms, hands forward again. Again, a little point and flex. And then rounding up to sit. Good, and then let's do the other side. All right, so knees drop to the other side. A little sweep of that leg. Foot to the outside or the just above the knee. Coming up to sit. And again, just that little tip side to side. And this side may be wildly different than the other side. Just to feel the one sitting bone, the sitting bone that's lighter, have a chance to come down to the floor. You can always elevate your hips. If it's harder to sit with both sitting bones on the floor, let's do a little turning towards the lifted knee. And away from the lifted knee. And towards. And away. Good. That's coming back. Come back to our tipping, bringing it more into a side bend. And again, just slowing down, letting the breath move into the ribs, changing the shape of the ribs, right? Moving all that tissue inside. Muscle, lung, heart. Pull the tubes from the heart into the rest of the body. Organs beneath the diaphragm, even just moving the diaphragm, right? That deeper breath as you move. Good. And let's drop the hands behind us. Again, I'm going to roll from the hips, And then again, just a little tipping side to side. Doesn't have to be the biggest. Again, the slower we go, the more weight we have down on the tissue. Just a little massage. Just noticing what happens when you go one side, back to center. Sometimes the return back to center is the most interesting, or sometimes it's moving to one side. Good. And then back to center. Foot down. Good. And let's stretch both legs forward for a moment. Just shake out your legs. Good. And let's do one leg bent, one leg straight. Good. Let's reach towards that straight leg foot and a little side bend over. Good. Take a breath or two and then coming up. And let's just turn towards the bent leg. And then unwind, and let's come back and tip over that straight leg. And come up, and then let's tip over the bent leg. Good, and a little variation, let's come up and turn towards the straight leg. This time again, opposite hand towards foot and a little fold. And come up. Good, and maybe just a lean back, hands behind you, lean back for a moment. One more time, let's come forward over that straight leg. And come up, and let's play with this without arms for a moment. So maybe just to reach towards one leg and reach towards the other leg, just with the rib separate from the hip. Good. And then let's sweep. So I'm going to reach towards the straight leg, but sweep that same arm across to the bent knee, tipping over the straight leg. Good. And then coming up, and I'm going to turn towards the bent leg. Good. Keeping that rotation, right? I'm turning my back away from my straight leg, and I'm just going to keep that rotation as I lean back over that straight leg. And then coming up, just a little side tip, other side. So bent leg arm will come towards the straight leg. Coming up, turning towards the straight leg, opposite hand reaches towards the foot. Same arm can reach back. And then up to sit. Good, I'm just going to take that bent leg and bring it up. So standing on that foot. Foot flat on the floor. Let's just do a little simple turning towards that straight leg. Good. You can even, again, let your hands walk back just a little bit and look up, leaning back into that bent leg. And release. Good. And let's slide that leg out. Good. Turning towards our first leg, straight leg. And then formerly bent leg. Good. And center, and let's switch sides. So bend. Good. A little reach towards the straight leg. Good. And then up and turn towards the bent leg. And again, reach towards that straight leg. Good. Coming up. Maybe even turn away from the bent leg. Look up. And then let's fold towards that straight leg. Then we'll do the whole thing without hands in a moment. And up. Missed a part, but that's okay. And let's do second time over. Good. Okay, arms up, just a little shift of the ribs side to side. Good, and then reaching towards that straight leg, other arm up and over, deeper fold. Breath or two. Good, and coming up, and let's turn towards the bent leg. Keep that rotation, tip back over. You can even bring, again, opposite hand to knee. Free arm up and over. Good, and up, maybe a little tip towards the bent leg. And come up, let's turn towards the straight leg, opposite hand, right? Opposite hand reaching towards the foot. My hands aren't on the floor unless you want them to be. And coming up. And again, one more time, just reaching. Good, and lift, and then let's step on that bent leg. Just bring the knee up, step on the foot. Just turning away from that leg. So same arm as that same side of the body. Arm in front of the leg. And maybe even walking the hands back a little bit, leaning back. Getting a nice posterior tilt in the pelvis, lengthening that lower back a little tuck. And then coming up, and let's straighten both legs. Good, let's turn toes in towards the center line and out, and turn in and out, turn in and out, turn in and out. And then let's turn one in, one out, right? So the first front leg, right? Because I'm going to end up turning towards that leg. That leg's externally rotating, back leg internally rotating, and then other side. And then again. Right, spinning the thighs, the lower legs, feet. The hips are also going to respond, right? That leg that turns in is going to move towards the front leg. Right, so it's a little bit of a front split on favoring one hip. And turn. And turn. Good, and turn. And turn. Good. And center. Good. So hands on the floor. I'm just going to slide forward and slide back. Right, and feel, right? Because the further you go forward, the legs have to work differently. And because the hands are moving, there's a different load than when the hands are on the floor. Good. Let's turn towards one leg. And again, I'm just going to slide and slide back in. Good. Listening to your end range. Slide. And slide back in. Good. Other leg. Slide out. And slide in. And again. Slide. And slide back in. Okay. So now I'm going to go just same leg. Slide. And then I'm going to sweep around with floor cleaning towards the other leg. And come up. And then reverse that, sliding out. Both arms sweep. And then come up. You're going to lean back into that back leg. Slide forward, sweep around. And up. Good. And last one, we'll do it a little differently. So I'm going to slide. Sweep across. But turn, do a little side bend again, opposite arm up and over, bending over one leg. And then rotating towards that leg, let's sweep back across. The same hand as leg stays on the floor, opposite arm up and over, just a little long reach. Turning back towards the leg, center, and coming up. Good, very nice. Yay. Okay. Inner thigh should feel nice. Nice and open. Let's actually come onto our back for a moment. Let's get those out a little bit more. All right. So laying down, extending the legs, just feeling the back of the body settle on the floor. If you need to keep your knees bent for a moment, you can. Or walk your ribs away from your pelvis. Just do a simple rolling the toes, legs in and out. Actually bend the knees. And do a little bit of cat-cow, right? Anterior tilt nice and slow. Posterior tilt nice and slow. Anterior tilt. And posterior tilt. Good. One more anterior tilt. Just making sure your feet are under you. So next posterior tilt, I'm just gonna put weight in the feet and roll the sitting bones up, lifting the hips. Kind of more of a hip lift than a back bend. Slowly rolling down. Again, a little anterior tilt. There's where the back bend is. Posterior tilt leading from the sitting bones, right as the feet plant, the sitting bones lift. So it's more of hip extension than spinal extension. Let's do a few more of those. Anterior tilt and posterior tilt. And slowly, slowly roll down and anterior tilt. And posterior tilt and slowly roll up and pause. Let's stay here for a moment. And I'm just going to let my right sitting bone lower towards the floor. I'm just going to tip my pelvis a little bit to the right. And then take that sitting bone up. So the base of the pelvis up. And then other side, left sitting bone lowers a little. And then left sitting bone, base of the pelvis, or at bottom of your buttocks, lifts up. Sitting bone drops, right at the bottom of your buttocks where your gluteal fold is. You can even bring your hand behind to feel it. And lifting up. Left side. Lowers and lifts. Right side lowers and lifts. Left side lowers and lifts. Both sides lifting. Slowly, slowly roll down. Good. Again, anterior tilt. Posterior tilt and lift. Good. Maybe even lift the toes and the ball of the foot. Good. Bringing the ball of the foot down, lift the heels up, keep lifting the sitting bones. Good. Let's shift onto the right foot. I'm still on the ball of the foot and the left. And side. Bring your arms close to the body. You can even lift the head. Move oppositionally to the thighs. A little bit of a just playing with weight load in your low bridge. And then center, bring your feet to the ground, lift your toes and do the same thing. So a little side to side shift. Head can move oppositionally just to help with that weight balance. Good. Last breath. And then coming back to center, slowly rolling the spine down. You can even keep the toes up. Good, toes down. One more little anterior tilt, posterior tilt, just rolling up. Pause, breathe, and rolling down. Good, let's bring feet together, knees apart. Just pause for a moment. Good, and then knees together and feet apart. Okay. All right, and then knees up. We're going to do a couple knee drops, a little more active, and then we'll slow it down. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let my right leg tip out to the side. Nice and slow, not letting the pelvis tip very much, and then slowly come back up. Just starting slow, and then other side, left leg tipping out to the side, not tipping the pelvis very much, right? So trying to almost separate the movement, right? Pelvic rotation from that external rotation, right? So first side again, I'm just going to let the right leg tip out to the side. Maybe even let the head tip to the side as the leg tips to the side. And right knee comes back up, and then the left leg. So head can tip left, left leg tips left, and back to center. Good, and now we're going to change it a little bit more. So I'm going to take the right leg out to the side. This time the pelvis is going to follow. And I'm going to let that right leg just kick out to the right a little bit and bend. And then roll back onto the back. Again, I'm going to tip left. Right, left knee is going to drop all the way to the floor, and I'm just going to do a little extension. Just extend that foot out to the side of the room and then bend it again and roll back onto your back. 5, pelvis tips to the right. Again, just that little flick, extend that leg, bend and roll. And then tipping left, extend that left leg, bend and roll. I'm going to change it again. So tipping right, extend that right leg. This time I'm going to keep that right leg straight and I'm going to let it slide down. So it's in line with my spine. So down away from the head. And then I'm going to keep tracing that right leg around the left leg. So now left leg tips to the floor and right leg sweeps around towards the left. And then reverses, sweeps down and out to the side and bend and roll onto the back. Left leg leads to the left, right leg follows, left leg sweeps out to the side, straightens out to the left side, and then slides, straight leg slides down, doesn't have to be pinned straight. Under my hips, under my ribs, under my head, and then keeps tracing to the right, around that right leg, left leg comes to the right. Yeah, doing this slow, slides, left leg slides down again, so it's underneath the hips. Slides out to the left, and making a big half circle with that left leg, bending that left leg and rolling up onto the back. Good, one more each side. So pelvis tipping right, right leg kicks out to the right. I'm just going to slide that right leg down underneath me and around. So it's making a big half circle around the left leg, turning the pelvis to the left. You can even hold that right ankle with your left hand just for a breath or two. And then slide back or down and around and out to the right and bend and come back up. Tipping left, kick out to the left, slide that straight left leg down and around the right leg, out to the right. You can pause there. And then sliding down and out and bend and center. Just pause for a moment with the knees bent, maybe 1 or 2 anterior posterior tilt. And extending the legs. Arms close to the body and just feel. Just feel what's settling, what's not settling, right? Maybe bringing your breath into any place that still feels like it wants some attention. Good. And bend knees. Good. So arms up to the ceiling. I'm just gonna flex and extend, right? So flexing at the wrist, but letting the fingers stay long. Good, maybe palms facing the ceiling and letting the arms rotate or hands rotate. Good, maybe letting the hands, the forearms, even the upper arms all rotate. And then letting the hands go the opposite direction, so backs of the hands facing the ceiling and letting the arms rotate. So wrists, forearms, elbows, upper arms, all rotating. Good, and then I'm gonna take the right hand and extend the fingers, so palm towards the ceiling. Bend the arm and bring the hand close to the head, so the fingers can point down towards the feet or out towards the side of the room or somewhere in between. Good. And maybe even just playing with, so my right hand is on the floor, it could be your left hand, and I'm just gonna make a little circle with my right elbow just to create some movement in the shoulder. Maybe change the direction of that circle. Good. And let's bring that left hand to the floor, right hand's on the floor. And I'm just gonna let the hips tip. So let's do that same circle somewhat. So I'm gonna let my pelvis tip to the right knee out to the side. Go ahead, letting that right leg extend out to the side. And then slide down away from the head. And around, across to the left, around that left leg, tipping the pelvis to the left knee comes to the floor. Good, maybe pause, folding that right leg with the left hand. Right hand is still on the floor. You can even let the ribs turn, let the head turn. And then slowly let that right leg trace around and out to the right and bend and roll onto your back. Good, let's do that one more time. Right knee tipping right. Extend the right leg to the right. Let it slide down. And slowly around. Slow movements, really letting your body be held, suspended by the floor. Good, and as the left hand holds the right foot, just pause. Maybe again, let the ribs turn towards the left. Good, and then let's just play with releasing that right arm and reach that right arm up and back. And then release that right leg down, let it slide down and around and out to the right, bend and come onto your back. Extend the legs just for a moment, just feeling right side, left side. Good. Let's bend the knees. Let's take that left arm up to the ceiling. You can actually, let's take both arms up again. Do a little flexion, extension. Good, palms up, letting the arms rotate. Hands turning right and left, forearms turning, elbows, upper arms turning. Good, and then backs of the hands facing the ceiling, turning. You can even bend the arms a little bit just to sweep the elbows in and out, letting those upper arms turn a little bit more. And then straighten the arms again. Good, and then let's just take the left hand, palm towards the ceiling, hand by the head. Right arm down by the hip. And then let's tip to the left, pelvis tips left. Left leg extends to the left. Even pausing there, because I feel a nice stretch on that right thigh, front hip. Left leg slides down and around, tipping the pelvis to the right. Right thigh comes, outer thigh comes to the floor, outer hip. Maybe hold that left ankle with the right hand. Maybe turn the ribs to the right. And then retrace your steps. Left leg slides down and around, tipping the pelvis back onto its back, then to the left. A nice stretch. Bending the left leg and rolling up onto the back of the pelvis. One more like that. Tipping left. Extend the left leg. Slide that left leg down and around, over to the right. Pause there for a moment. Again, let the ribs turn. And then release that left hand and reach it up and away, up and back. And then release that left leg down and around out to the left. Bend that left leg, roll back onto your back. Just pause and breathe. And maybe a little anterior tilt, little posterior tilt. And extend the legs. And arms a little lower. Good, letting the head roll gently to one side. And center and the other side. And center and first side again, nice and slow and heavy. And center and side. And center. Good. And I'm just going to roll to the side and come up just enough so I can grab 2 blankets. And then come onto my back. Lift my heels, lift my hips. Blankets under the pelvis. You can always do 1 blanket. I'm going to walk my ribs away just to help create some length and traction in that lower back. Good. All right. Let's just take feet together and knees apart for a breath or 2. Again, you can always walk the feet away from you if you lose that posterior tilt. Good. One more breath like this. And then lifting the knees up, let's take the feet wide and knees together. Good. Good. Okay, let's take one knee into the chest, get a little more. So one knee comes in, the other leg slides out, so it could be a quasi straight leg. Depends on how close in the other leg is. It depends on if you want more emphasis on the leg that's moving away from the head or the knee that's moving towards the head. And you can play with both, but having more of a posterior tilt or a rounded lower back. And work on extending the straight leg from there. Or you can release so the pelvis is a little more neutral. That bent knee a little further away from the face. Depends on what feels good. Or a little bit of both. Good. Maybe even taking that straight leg a little across to one side, to the bent leg side. And then away from the bent leg side. To get a little movement. Good, let's actually take, so the bent leg, take the same hand. And let's take that knee out to the side and just to get inseam of the legs, inner thighs, groin. And then let's take that knee again in front of the body, switch hands. And let's take that leg first across to the opposite side, but the hips stay heavy. Good, and then letting the pelvis roll again. Nice and heavy. And then roll back onto the back of the pelvis. Let's do one more time out to the right. You can even hold behind the knee and just do a little, not a big kick, just a little kick out to the right. Knee back to center, change hands. Slowly roll the pelvis. And then again, maybe a little kick across the body. Kick is a strong word, like more of a extension. One more, nice and easy to one side of the room. Again, maybe extend the leg, reaching through both legs. Knee center, bending the knee as I do this. Going across, again, just a little kick. And slowly center. Good, and then both knees towards the chest. Just organizing myself on my blankets. And another breath or two. Feeling that back body, feeling the breath in the back body, and then switching sides. So other leg extends, and again, you can play with having more child's pose, like posterior, stronger posterior tilt in the pelvis, or you can be a little more neutral in the pelvis, focusing on the extending leg. And they both feel good to me, so I'm just gonna go back and forth a little bit. Finding both, and again, that straighter leg or the leg further away from the head, just a little sweep side to side. Good, and then let's take the bent leg into the same hand and go out to the side, again, just getting the groin, inner thigh, front thigh, then front of the hip. Hip stays heavy, taking that knee across. And then eventually letting the pelvis roll. Good. And then rolling back onto your back. And left knee out to the side, hand behind the thigh, hand behind the knee. And just a little kick, maybe out to the left or moving towards extension. And then center and across. And again, a little kick across the body. And back slowly back to center. A nice slow, heavy roll. It's our massage, our morning massage, midday massage. Knee out to the side. Again, just a little light extension through the legs. Center and across. And again, maybe just a little reach through the legs. And center. Good, and taking both knees into your chest. Pause. Good, and you can, if you want, if it feels good, straighten the legs out in front of you so my pelvis is still pretty tucked under. Good, maybe legs wide, you can hold the ankles, the feet. And maybe legs back to center. Good, and bending knees. Good, let's bring feet to the floor. Good, lifting heels again, lifting sitting bones, sliding the blanket towards the feet. Bring the feet up on the blankets one more time. Feet together, knees apart. My feet and my shins are up on the blankets. Good, and slowly, slowly, knees up, knees together, feet apart. Good, and then when you're ready, extending your legs. If you need any other adjustments, please take them. Hands on body, hands off body. Letting your breath deepen. Just for a few breaths, a longer inhale, a longer exhale. Just feeling that swelling, widening, and then softening, spreading, sinking. And letting the breath soothe the body, soften, soothe the mind. Letting the breath relax. And even though the breath is quiet, maybe letting the mind just bring awareness or watch the breath like you would watch a creek flowing, just watching the rhythm. Noticing the movement. Even noticing just how the body's responding. Just that awareness. A little bit of movement in your fingers and toes. Staying connected to that softness in the body. And a little movement in hands and feet as you stay connected to that softness. And arms and legs as you stay connected to that softness. And rolling onto your side. Coming up to sit. Good, one hand on heart, one hand on belly. Nice slow inhale, nice slow exhale. Good, and again, inhale, this time exhale with an Om.